バカじゃないの？私は前で好きじゃない。でも、大大大大大好きだよ。Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Wow, it's been a while since I said that intro, and yes, I am back everybody. It's been a while. I said that a second time, but yeah, after several months I am back, and I have rested my mind and my body, and I think I really did need that break that I took, because now I'm ready to go write more stories than ever. And I discovered a whole new fandom, so that's exciting. But yeah, as you can see from this video, we have a new intro. It's still the same intro, but with a different voiceover. Still my voice and different characters. And for the style of this video, it's still the same with the thumbnail and the border, but you will notice a bit more upgraded kind of video from Ethereal Moonlight. And that's all from me. I hope you enjoy this video. It's been a while since I wrote or did a YouTube video, so I hope you enjoy it. Ethereal Moonlight presents a SakuAtsuHina text fic, Through Your Eyes. Episode 1, Familiar Stairs. Warning. Established Atsuhina, Atsuhina Angst, implied Kagina X's half-assed dating scenario, Miss B in Adler's time skip. Positive warnings, none for this episode. AO3 link. If any of you wants to read the transcript or the AO3 version of this video, the link will be down below.
The water was cold as it dripped down Atsumu's naked body. Yet, he couldn't step away, nor do anything to fasten cleaning himself up to go home. The sound of the door closing pulled Atsumu out of his thoughts, eyes slowly looking everywhere to ground himself down. Right, he's in the shower. He needs to finish, or he'll be left in the gym alone. He must have stared off into space again after all the thoughts that were running in his head, now only a quiet buzz accompanied by the calming sound of running water. Rinsing himself from the shampoo in his hair and the soap lathered in his body, he wrapped a towel around his waist, not even bothering to dry off his blonde hair that have faded. He needs to get a Rakala soon. The locker room was quiet and notably empty, unlike how loud and full it always was when Atsumu has come out and finished showering. He did take too long, and some calls from his teammates probably went over his head, since he was stuck in his mental limbo. He got dressed shortly, not bothering to fix himself as he always does, wanting to look as seamless as he possibly can. He just, frankly, doesn't have the energy nor the willpower to do anything. With him in fresh new clothes, he slung his shoulder bag over his shoulders, stomping his shoes to set his feet deeper into them in an attempt to not bend over and fix them. It wasn't successful, but it did work a little bit. Atsumu couldn't care less if his feet felt uncomfortable. At least there is a physical representation of what he feels at the current moment. He walked out of the locker room, noting how the gym had fallen into a quiet hum, almost as if mocking him. Atsumu then remembered what unfolded just hours ago. Remembered how his sets lacked the proficiency and perfection they always had, even before he got into the team he had worked so hard for. Remembered how confused the others were with his sudden lack of enthusiasm to play inside the court, unlike how pumped up and energetic he always was. He wasn't a volleyball addict who only does things related to the said sport, but neither was he someone who occasionally played so miserably he had to get benched in the middle of the match. It was the first time he got benched for playing bad. It wasn't even an official match, it was yet another one of their practice matches that they rarely get the chance to do nowadays, being adults with actual lives instead of high schoolers who dedicated their lives to volleyball. And he wasted that chance. Maya. Atsumu held back a flinch as he was pulled out of his trance once again, but this time with a familiar voice. Oh, the faded blonde painfully held back the urge to scowl, effortless faking a smile that looked too real to be true. Oh me. Why are ya still here? The taller groaned through his iconic black mask. His back was hunched over, a habit he always does when there's 1 to 2 people in the room who he knows wouldn't comment on it. Bakuto pushed me here. Told me he was taking Hinata for a bit. Atsumu gripped his bag strap when he heard the name that he once rejoiced upon hearing. Now, all he felt was a pang of empty pain in his chest. Though his smile never quivered, staying perfectly on his lips despite the impact. Oh, gotcha. I was going to go home anyway, had to rest ya no? Atsumu laughed as he walked toward the gym doors, waving goodbye at Sakusa. See ya tomorrow, Omi. Sakusa wanted to say something, but then decided against it when Atsumu walked out without another word. There is something off, but he can't quite put his finger on it. Atsumu's just really convincing is all. You need to get back to the setter you once were. If you keep this up any longer, I won't have any choice but to switch you with a bench warmer. Atsumu nodded at their coach's words, lips fixed in a smile that had gained stability over the years. It was fake, that one was obvious enough to him, but not to the people around him. I don't need a flameout in my team, Mitaya. Fix yourself. Though those words made a crack in Atsumu's stability. He couldn't even consider himself stable before the conversation with their coach. He already knew he was breaking down fast. He wanted to deny it, but that never works. The official matches and tournaments weren't around the corner, but their coach had always been someone who masks their encouragement with harsh words. It was their thing. For most of the time it works well for Atsumu, since it reminded him of his twin brother. Though it's different now. It just rang in his head, again and again, reminding him that insecurities are a thing that can crush even his strong foundation. Practice started and Atsumu felt boneless, lethargic, and out of focus. He just wasn't in the right headspace to remember how to be a setter that MSBY needs, not someone who can't even receive properly despite being a pro. Atsumu, is something wrong? Atsumu stills in his place, recognizing the voice from a mile away. He knew this was bound to happen at some point. He knew, yet he still wished that for some lucky chance, he would be invisible, and that they won't notice him at all. Though, it seems like those bad receives an amateur sets a monstrosity that can't be ignored, especially from an egoistic setter such as Miya Atsumu. Nah, I'm fine. Atsumu's answer lacked the strength and energy to convince Hinata that it was the truth. By this point, everyone had noticed that something definitely isn't right with their setter, who was always on the top of his game. It wasn't a normal MSBY practice if Atsumu hasn't made a comment that flaunts his big and uncrushable ego. Atsumu hasn't made such comments since he entered the gym this morning. It would be a good change if it weren't for the fact that the change was too big. He hasn't done any of his quirks or said anything that made them groan his name. It was like they got a whole new different setter all of a sudden. Maybe. Hinata started, eyes looking around. Everybody to confirm if he can say his next words. Maybe you should sit this one out. We're just practicing spikes anyway. Not now, Hinata. The name felt bitter on Atsumu's tongue and it sure shocked the ginger. Even before they got into MSBY, Atsumu has always called him various nicknames that ranged from adorable to borderline embarrassing. Are you okay, Atsumu? Hinata tried again. The blonde stood in his spot quietly, not knowing how to start thinking about a question that can fool not only Hinata but everyone. Nothing came to mind. He wasn't a good liar. All he was good at was acting as if he was the best setter everyone could ever have. Atsumu? It's nothing. Atsumu let go of the ball he was holding, letting it dribble in small bounces on the floor on its own before it started rolling away to the other side of the court. The same court where he saw exactly where he stand in Hinata's life. It's clearly not nothing. Atsumu Wold felt like he was on cloud 9 after hearing Hinata notice something about him. After all, they were boyfriends, but it wasn't something that happens often. All the setter did was scowl, unable to control his own facial expressions. I said it's nothing. But don't push him, Hinata. A deep voice interrupted the ginger. Atsumu knows exactly who was it that dared to step in between them, and he doesn't know if he should be thankful or what. After all, Sakusa is completely unreadable. Hinata sighed as he gently grabbed Atsumu's wrist, a silent invitation for him to follow him somewhere private. Come with me? Atsumu didn't notice himself following the ginger out of the gym until they were standing in front of each other, the cold breeze of autumn kissing his cheek, as if telling him that this wouldn't end well. He knew it wouldn't, but he also knew that he could never deny Hinata. So, Hinata started once they were away and alone, just the two of them. How nice that sounds, and how fake it is. What's wrong? The setter stayed quiet for a few moments before he released a huff of air that blocked his lungs. He shouldn't have come with Hinata, he can't hold himself back with this. I saw Taweya looked at him. Pain laced Atsumu's voice as he looked at the pile of red leaves on the road, his faded blonde hair moving slightly due to the breeze of air. Him? Kajiyama Tobio. That Settaya spent your whole life with before you joined MSBY. Silence engulfed them too. Atsumu already expected this to happen. He didn't want them to end so soon, but it was better now than later. At least Hinata can cut him off faster. Atsu, that's I know the meaning of yeah stares at him, Shoyo. Atsumu looked at Hinata, eyes filled with mixed emotions that Atsumi can't quite express freely. I know it because it's how I stared at ya before we started this thing about us. Hinata looked back at Atsumu, gulping as he felt disappointment filling his chest. He wasn't disappointed at Atsumu, he could and would never bring himself to be, he was disappointed at himself. For hurting someone so deserving of love. Ya don't have to apologize. After all, I already saw this coming, before I even accepted your offer. Atsumu. The said male let out a wet laugh as tears started descending from his eyes. It's stupid, isn't it? I accepted your offer to date, even when I knew I was just a replacement for someone who I can never compare to. I tried, Atsumu. I tried to love. To love you. Those words made Atsumu hold back a sob, looking away because he can't afford to see Hinata's helpless expression. It pained him more, seeing how conflicted Hinata looked. It's fine. I already know my place. I know where I stand. It has been fun, Hinata. Atsumu wiped his tears with his arm, but it was useless when new ones raced down his cheek within a second. Damn, this hurts more than I thought. Hinata stayed quiet, unsure of what to say to ease the heavy feeling in his chest that was starting to suffocate him. He was at fault, he admit that wholeheartedly. He offered a relationship at Atsumu a few months after joining MSBY in hopes of forgetting a setter from Adler's that got into a dating scandal many weeks prior to their conversation. Atsumu accepted it with a big smile at that time, also in hopes of making him forget about a dark-haired setter that he had always been somehow envious of for having someone like Hinata Shoyo around him. So that's it? We're ending us? Hinata said nothing, feeling as if his voice was getting held back by all the things he wanted to say, but didn't have the courage to do as his mind pleases. All Atsumu did was smile, accepting that this is the end of the happy dream he once illusioned himself with. Atsumu swallowed the lump in his throat, eyes looking somewhere far. I wished we didn't start this relationship, so I wouldn't have regrets. I regret loving ya, Hinata.
Oi.
あ
ちょっと付き合ってくんない？
my head.